Testing 1 2. Use the use the camera as a mirror. Um, so we are live, guys. So what's going on, guys? Donnie Rouse here, and this one is actually a very special episode. It was inspired by a webinar I was in last night, and thinking about it, I realized that this is really one of the reasons when I look back at the places I've traveled, the experiences I've had. This one element is the reason why I was able to follow through on so many of those things which most people literally just dream about doing. So I woke up this morning, I went for a walk to kind of gather my thoughts, and I'm on here because I wanted to share it with you because I believe that if you add this element into your life, that it'll literally transform your life. It'll literally catapult you in the direction you want to go. So I can't even speak today. Hi guys, my name is Donnie Rouse, and you are listening to the podcast One Life, the countdown. When do you follow through in life on something a goal you set? When do you actually follow through? It doesn't even have to be a goal. Like, when do you actually follow through on something that your heart is calling you to do? It's so easy in the day to day of life just to get stuck, to get caught in those day to day routines where your mind goes on autopilot, and all of a sudden now you're not even consciously in your day, right? You're literally just running your habits because your brain has checked out. Your brain is like, you know what, we're gonna make it easy. I'm taking off, just go on autopilot. The intention of this episode here is to take you off that autopilot, but also give you a new way of looking at something that can help you make fast progress in whatever it is that you want to bring into your life. The point of this podcast here is literally the entire podcast is to get you to ask the questions that you normally don't get to ask in your day to day, right? Because you're too busy doing other things. So the first question is, well, what is it that you want, right? We always start with the end in mind. What is it that you want? If you don't know, then you kind of, you're literally pointing your target up in the air. But if you have a general sense of what you want, then you can slowly start to tune in. You can slowly start to get more clarity. So what is it that you want? And second question is, what is the urgency? You could swap out the words and say, what is the necessity? But what is the urgency? Right? Urgency gets a bad rap because when you think of urgency, you think of stress, right? You wait too long to submit that project at work, and all of a sudden now there's a big sense of urgency, and you're stressed out beyond your freaking mind. So, but I want to use those words interchangeably because urgency has a little bit more of a triggering effect, right? There's probably a little bit more of a stress response when you say urgency. But when you think urgency, it's like, I got to do this now. Like, if I don't do this now, there's consequences to pay, right? When you think of necessity is like, yeah, it's a necessity, but it just, the word lacks the power of urgency, right? Wouldn't you agree if you just say them out loud? Urgency, necessity. Like, necessity kind of like, even just the tone, it's like, or urgency is like, it's in your face. So I want to acquaint you with the word urgency, but not in the sense that the urgency where you literally, you procrastinated. And as a result of you procrastinating, now all of a sudden now there's a shit ton of stress in your life, right? Or at least until this project's done. The seed I want to plant is the right type of urgency. I want to plant the urgency that is like when you're looking at the end of your life and you're like, well, wow, this is something that I want to experience before I die, right? Death, that's another thing, like a taboo thing. No one talks about death. But death is great because it puts things in perspective. It lets you know that your time here is finite and that whatever it is you want to do, you better get the ball rolling. So back to urgency. So the urgency we want specific types of urgency. We want urgencies that will make us feel good, not stressed. And the stuff that makes us feel good are, think about taking action in, you want to plan a trip, right? You can't do it right away. But there is a sense of urgency. You know you want to go there before maybe before you have kids, or maybe before, before you get old and you can't do it anymore. There's a finite goal. There's a sense of urgency that's set there. When I've traveled quite a bit, right? So I've been to about, I think, 48 countries now, with my intention to visit every single country. And just to give you an example of the sense of urgency, when I think of dying, the one thing on my mind, one of my biggest, I guess, fears is not experiencing the things that I want in life. And as a result, when things arise, when opportunities arise, like when I get a small window of time and I see a flight to Colombia that is, whatever, $400, I take that, right? Because there's this literally, it's like an overwhelming sense of urgency where I'm like, oh my God, like I've got to do this now. Who knows how long you live with, it's honest, right? Who knows how long you will live? So why not make good on those goals? So I would look at, this literally, I'm giving you a little bit of an insight into my psyche. Because this is like the type of thing that would literally start spinning in my mind. And it's not always like that, because that would be extremely stressful, right? Because then it wouldn't work. I would literally just keep traveling, which there's nothing wrong with that. I would love to just keep traveling. But when it's there, it's like an alarm sounding. It's letting me know, Don, this is something that is extremely important to you. You've got to take action. So as a result, it's always in the forefront of my mind. It's always like, all right, where am I going to go next? And there's the thread that's constantly being woven as to what action am I going to take next? So let's go back to the word urgency, right? When you think of the word urgency, urgency is like, usually we make things urgent that are not important, right? So you have there's like, think of 4 quadrants. There's not important, not urgent, important, and urgent. Most people make the unimportant things extremely urgent. A lot of people make urgency, important things urgent, because they just waited too long. So the whole idea is to look at the things that are important but not urgent. But again, we want to use the word urgency just because it has some emotional power. So we want to focus on important and urgent, but we're going to add like another quadrant to it. And we're going to say, rather than, important, urgent, important, but not on like some kind of timeline. This way, it's urgent because it has to happen, but it doesn't have to happen all tomorrow. It's like if I gave you this baby elephant, I'm like, here you go, you can eat that. You're like, oh great, food for the year. I don't have to go out hunting and gathering now. But I'm like, yeah, but the meat's gonna go. You got to eat it by tomorrow. You're gonna like, what? To eat the entire elephant by tomorrow? But yet that's what you do to your life, right? You all these things we pile on, right? And then it's like, oh my God, you get overwhelmed because you feel like you have to do it all, when it really could have been avoided if one, maybe just took off some of the things on your plate that weren't that important, and 2, you didn't wait long enough. You didn't wait until the very, very end. So what is it that you like? What kind of things you want to experience in life? Let's put this into practice. Like, what you always have to start with what it is that you want. Like, what do you want? Do you want to, do you want to travel to every country in the world? Maybe not, right? Maybe you're like, shit, that is fucking exhausting. I don't even like getting on planes. Fine. Maybe you want to start a farm, right? Maybe you want to grow your own produce, but you just keep putting it off because, there's always something coming up. Your favorite series is on Netflix, right? You can't miss the new episode. What is it that you want? Get clear about this before anything else. And then next, what if it never happens, right? What if it never comes to fruition? As I just shared with you, when I think of not experiencing life to the fullest, when I think of certain things that may make me feel like I'm not living the fullest life. Emotion wells up in me, and it makes me, it literally pushes me into action because there's a strong enough why. When I think, what is the why? I'm trying to think. I was asking myself as I'm speaking to this to you, like, what is the why? I kind of think back to the book Catcher in the Rye, about like this childlike, wonder of the world, and this innocence. I also looked at my numerology last night, and I was looking at my destiny number, my life number, and all these things, and they were all around the area of 5. My soul urge is 5. If you know anything about numerology, soul urges are this urge to be out in the world for adventure, for travel. So, I mean, it's funny. I don't, I guess I do like to read those things, but when they describe me to a T, I find it rather fascinating. But that is my soul urge, like, to the T. And then my other thing, my life number was number 9. Number 9 is a humanitarian and like inspiring and wanting to share something of value, which is go live your life. So what is it that's urgent for you? Right? If you were to die tomorrow, what song would be left unsung? Like, what would you regret leaving on this earth unfinished? And then once you have that, I want you to really focus on the emotions of it. Like, how would it feel, right? Don't just say like, oh, well, if I never got to bring my kids to a baseball game, yeah, and just while they're still young, yeah, that would really break my heart, right? But don't just put that on paper. Let's think about, like, well, how would you feel, right? And why would you feel it? Now we're asking questions of the heart. Right now, you're like, why would you feel it? You might say like, oh, well, because these are cherished years. I remember when my father would take me to the baseball game and how much I bonded with him. And it was really one of the things that made me feel close to my father, one of my fondest memories. Oh, if it didn't happen, oh my God. I would feel broken. I would feel like I was missing an opportunity to connect with the one little being that I love, to impact his life, to share one of my passions with, right? You see where I'm going with this. The power is in the why. The power is in the emotion. The more emotion you evoke out of a thing that you're going for, the more likely that you're going to move in that direction. So many people put their focus, and I'm guilty of it as well, right? But it's a conscious effort. You put your focus in the pain of not doing something, and normally it's something that someone else is asking you to do, and it may not even be that important to you. So focus first on the things that are important to you before anyone else in the outside world has a chance to put their shit on your back. Right? We want to make sure the pack that we are carrying up that hill is filled with the things that are necessary and important for our own survival. Said differently, necessarily and important to our own life being filled with happiness and joy. So once you have that emotion, right, how does it feel? Do you feel a little bit better now or maybe do you feel a little bit different, like you can take some kind of action right now, right? Maybe you can't do, using that baseball example. Maybe, they're not in season, right? They're not playing baseball right now. But maybe you can contact, to see when the season tickets are available, or maybe the schedule's out where you can start looking out and blocking out the time. So this way, you know that you're going to be able to take off work on X at X a day, or you know what I mean? What can you do? Feeling this emotion, feeling that you want to take some kind of action, feeling that there is urgency. What action can you take now? Take that action. You have no idea how important that action is, because action compounds. Getting out of your day-to-day rut, your day-to-day routines, is what all of a sudden now opens up the available for the things you want to flow into your life. Life doesn't happen I'm spitting over here on the microphone, but life does not happen in a vacuum, right? You have to, you can sit there, you can pray, you can meditate, you could do everything you want, everything ritual you have. It's not going to do any good until you get out into the world. Because that is the only way all of these things start to make their way to you, right? Like, you're, God, send me the perfect, send me the love of my life. All right, I guess I will wait in my bedroom until she comes knocking at my door. I hope she knows where my house is. It sounds stupid. It sounds ridiculous, right? But yet you do that with every other thing that you desire. Get into not just stepping into discomfort. Don't even, because the one thing I don't want to do, I don't want you to feel like anxious about this, but rather have fun, right? Think of the possibility in life. Something better might come along, right? I remember listening to an interview. They were talking to Oprah. They were like, did you ever believe that, like, or think that this would be your life? She's like, I had no fucking clue. I had no idea. I imagine myself like right here, but all of a sudden I have all of this. I'm paraphrasing here, but she had no idea. So what does that mean to you? Meaning, once you put yourself out there, right, the possibility, like, you might think like, oh, wow, it would be great to have this level of the thing. But in reality, like, there might be something so much bigger and better than you could ever have imagined waiting for you to just take that first step. So let's recap. Let's go back to our good old friend, urgency. What did I teach you about urgency? Action-taking urgency, ATU as I call it, is the urgency you want to take for the things that are important to you. But before you could take the action, you first have to know what it is that is important to you. Next is, well, what if it doesn't happen, right? What if it never comes to fruition? And it might be so easy, again, just to brush it off. Like, oh, well, if I don't go to the baseball game with my son, I don't go to the baseball game with my son. Not a big deal. But add some emotion to it, right? We want necessity. We want urgency. What will that mean for his life? What would it mean for your life? If it's, maybe, I'll give you one more example and we'll just role play with this. Maybe it's taking a trip to Italy. I just got back from Italy for 5 weeks, so we'll go there. Maybe it's taking a trip to Italy, right? You've been wanting to go, but you haven't taken any action. What's the urgency, right? You might be writing it down on paper. You might be like, well, it would be great. I would love to have some pizza and try. I've heard the espresso in Italy is amazing. It's, completely different than anywhere else in the world. It would be great to have like a great espresso. One of the cafes Donnie suggests in his podcast or on his Instagram page. Totally recommend it. That you put emotion to it, right? So now reading that, you're like, oh yeah, I guess I'd be missing out on coffee and seeing Italy, trying the pasta, seeing like the Colosseum. I love history, right? Oh God, it would be awesome to see that, but like, how much emotional intensity is there? There's not a whole lot. I mean, unless you really, really love coffee like me, I would do it just for the coffee. I would fly to Italy, just have one shot of espresso, and I would fly back. No bullshit. I think I actually might have I've done short trips for that, but I'm getting sidetracked, right? So we're looking at that. Now let's ask a few different questions. All right. Well, okay, maybe there's not that much urgency there. What if, you were going to live for 1 year? Would that make it more urgent? It's your first time traveling out of the country. What if you never left your hometown, your house, your room? What if you never left? What kind of effect is that having on your quality of life? What kind of effect would it have? How would it feel to actually step out and to experience that, to get into the world. What else would that do for your life, right? How would taking that trip impact your life? What other doors might it open up? What are the other experiences that maybe you can't even fathom that you might have as a result of taking that trip? Do you see what I'm doing here? By taking something that didn't really have much emotional intensity at all, and just asking some basic questions, really. Now all of a sudden you're building the case for, like, you know what? Damn, I have I have a week, week coming up vacation. I'll go for it. I'll go to Italy for 1 week. What the hell? Why not? Right? You start to build the emotion and you start to build the why, but it takes you have to ask some questions. And now all of a sudden there's some urgency behind it, right? You only start to think about urgency when you think about death. Well, I guess not just death, right? But like when you know that your time is finite on this earth, you look at things a little bit differently because you realize that the things that are important to you, you have to do now. The things that don't matter, like the shit people think about you and, the little petty fears you have about comparison, all these things, right? I have them too. I have a lot of them. One day I'll do a podcast. Maybe I'll just go into all the fears and the comparison, all the things. But you want to take action anyways, right? Because life is finite. Your time here. And the intention for you is to enjoy your time, to be happy. That's not to say that every day is going to be peaches and cream, because that's bullshit, right? There's the dichotomy of life. Life is happy, sad, it's good, it's shit, it's everything. But isn't it kind of cool that you can literally feel all those emotions in a single day? I know I have. Prioritize the things that are important to you. So that is all I have for you guys today. I hope this in some way has made you look at that you word a little bit differently, not the you, but the you and urgency. And that you may use just the example I gave to create some urgency in your life, to follow through on your passions, to move forward in your goals, to take that trip, to start that business, to say, I love you. That is all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please subscribe. Please share it with someone whom is special to you, whom you think might benefit from hearing this message. If you would like to subscribe, comment, or ask a question, you can visit my website at www.donnyraus.com. Again, DONNYRAUS.com. I believe in you guys. You can do this. You deserve to live a life that you're passionate about and love. As always, remember, you only get one life. Live it. God bless, and I will see you again soon.